Now, I could start off this video the way I do with most crossovers and talk about how these vehicles are taking over and getting rid of all the sedans and blah, 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 blah. But the point is, this is actually a pretty exciting vehicle. This spotlight is on the 2021 Kia Sorento SX. This is the fourth generation of Kia's midsize crossover with 3 rows in it. Now, this is a larger vehicle than the outgoing generation. It's 1.4 inches longer for the wheelbase, or 35 millimeters, and the overall vehicle is about 3.1% lighter than it was overall from the previous generation. Kia didn't stop there, though. The tensile strength has been improved by 4%, and the driving dynamics, along with the ride handling and noise, vibration, and harshness, have all been improved on this generation. Now, our SX is the fully loaded version sold here in Canada. You can get the same configuration in the US. I do find the paint costs more in the US for some reason. I don't know why. But one of the things that I've heard a lot of chatter about when it comes to this generation is the lack of a V6 engine. Kia only offers 2 engines here. It's both the same displacement. Both are 2.5 liter inline 4-cylinder engines. This one having a turbocharger. You get 281 horsepower, 311 pound-feet of torque, and it's pretty similar numbers to what we saw on the V6 on the previous generation. The thing is, though, you lose out on the tow rating. Before, you would have a 5,000 pound tow rating. Now you've got a 3,500, which, to be fair, is still more than enough than most people are going to be using. I would say about 90% of the people who buy a Sorento are going to be within that 3,000 pound tow limit and probably aren't going to be towing anything at all. Yeah, I know there were a lot of people who were buying these to tow larger campers or boats and things like that. So you will have to either go to the Telluride, the larger mid-size SUV, or, I don't know, buy one of the V6s. But right now, this is how they're configuring it. There will be some other engine options available down the road, but for now, we have fully gas engine choices for the Canadian market. Now, we also have a new 8-speed wet dual clutch transmission. Unlike the dual clutch transmissions that you've seen before on some of Kia's hybrids, this is using a wet system, which is supposed to improve not only the shifting and performance of it, but also the overall reliability. So we're going to be testing that as we take it on the road. Now, the exterior on this is completely different from the one that we saw before. We featured a number of model years of the previous generation Sorento, so if you really want to see how it compares to that, you can take a look at those videos, but it is a completely different vehicle, taking a lot of design cues from Kia's latest crossovers, like the Telluride, with its own unique styling. This isn't just a smaller version of it. They use some design cues, like the rear taillights are kind of similar. The fact that the badging is strung along the back of it as well, like the Telluride, is similar, but it is a completely different vehicle. And it's sort of hard to find in the marketplace now. A lot of manufacturers are taking one design and just shrinking it or expanding it, depending on the size of the vehicle that it needs to fit in. But both Kia and Hyundai have been going with different designs for their consumer vehicles. Let's not talk about Genesis, though. Now, the front has full LED headlights with their signature daytime running lights. Looks pretty cool. Unmistakable on the road from other vehicles. We also have the blacked out trim. The grille is blacked out, the trim on the side all blacked out. So if you were to go with the other trims, you would have silver trim, and it's got kind of like this faux C-pillar design to it. We saw it on the Telluride with the B pillars. It seems to be a design trait now that Kia is going with. So because this one is more or less all blacked out, it's a little harder to see, but you can kind of tell as you're getting to the C-pillar, there's like a little arch that comes up and doesn't actually go anywhere. It seems to be what they're doing with their design language. Out back, I mentioned we have the split vertical LED taillights. They look pretty cool. And for the most part, the proportions on this vehicle are good. I like the look of it. It is aggressive. It's masculine. It's muscular. It doesn't have to be over the top, but it fits in, and it just really shows how far Kia has come even from the previous generation. I mean, this thing looks completely different, and I really do like it. I think it's a great look on this vehicle, giving buyers some choice in this very crowded segment. Now, the interior is all new as well, but it's a little bit more inspired by the Telluride than the exterior is. So if you've seen our video on that vehicle, you'll probably feel a little bit more familiar on the inside than you would from other vehicles. It has new bright satin finishes available depending on your trim, also textured inlays of open pore wood or that metal finish. On this, we've got the metal-like finish on here. It looks very nice. We have leather embossed quilt pattern on the seats, and the seat comfort is really good. Front seats are nice and comfortable with 2 driver memory options. The second row comes with captain's chairs. That may or may not be a plus for you, but it is the direction this segment is going in. And then you've got the seating in the back. There is a 12.3-inch fully digital gauge cluster for the driver, along with the surround view monitor. That's a 360-degree camera, a 10.25-inch infotainment system, and up to 8 USB ports depending on which trim and configuration you go with. There's a couple of new features available on the Sorento, including the navigation-based smart cruise control system. So as you're using cruise control, if you're coming up to a turn or a bend in the road, based on the navigation software, the car will slow you down so you make that curve a little easier. We also have the blind spot collision avoidance for parallel exits. So if you're pulling out of a spot and somebody's coming, the vehicle will stop for you. And you also have the standard safety tech that you would expect to have on this, including lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, front and rear parking sensors, and forward collision alert with both pedestrian and bike detection. Now the front seats have heat and ventilation, the second row seats have heat. We also have a color head-up display, power folding mirrors, panoramic sunroof, a Bose audio system, home link, which is something that was missing on the last couple model years of the top-end Sorento, and LED interior lighting. So there's a lot of good stuff that comes on the interior of this. I think it works well. It works for a family. If you're replacing your current sedan or another vehicle, whether it's a crossover or not, you're going to be very content with this. I found that the space on the inside is good, the features and tech is there, and even the interior layout is really good. One of the things that we've always complained about the interior designs of these vehicles is the dashboards and top of the door cards are usually hard plastic. We don't see any leather or anything like that on here. It's a little softer than it has been before, but still we're looking at more of a plastic dash sort of material, so it doesn't have a top-end quality feel to it. But again, this isn't meant to take the spot of the Telluride. This is meant to fit in between, and even though the pricing is a little bit more than a 2020, it still comes with a lot of tech and a lot of features that you're going to want to have at this price point. And you know, we always feature the top end trims for these vehicles. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be buying it. Even at the lower trims, you're still getting a lot of kit for the price. Now I want to take this vehicle on the road. I want to talk about how the smaller engine performs, how the 8-speed dual clutch transmission with that wet system works, and everything else that you need to know if you're in the market for the new 2021 Kia Sorento SX. Let's get to the really important stuff right off the back. That is fuel economy. If you're buying this because you want to use it as a family hauler, chances are you want to save some money at the pump. So how did the 2021 Kia Sorento SX do on our test loop? Completed it in 8.9 liters per 100 kilometers. We did that in eco mode, and I have the screen set up on the driver cluster to be able to see when the front and rear wheels are engaged. And usually when you take off, it uses all-wheel drive, and then once you've picked up speed enough, you go into front-wheel drive. So for the most part, it's not too bad. Now, how does that compare to other crossovers that we've tested? Well, the most important would be the old Kia Sorento with the V6. It did it in 9.1 liters per 100 kilometers, so a little bit more fuel efficient. How about some of the other vehicles we've tested? The GMC Acadia, that did it in 9.4 liters per 100 kilometers. The Mazda CX-9 Signature, that uses a 2.5 liter turbocharged engine. And in fact, it actually has pretty interesting power numbers compared to this, because it only produces 250 horsepower if you're on premium fuel and 320 pound-feet of torque. So this has more. The Mazda did it in 9.7 liters per 100 kilometers. And then also, just to throw in, the Dodge Durango GT, again another V6 that completed it in quite a bit more, 10.9 liters per 100 kilometers. So those are kind of what's comparable. So those vehicles produce similar power numbers, but as you can see, the Sorento did it a little bit better. We have a number of drive modes available as well, the usual Smart, Sport, Eco, and normal drive modes, but we also have some terrain modes, including snow, mud, and sand. So that can help in certain situations. I don't expect the Sorento SX to go too off-road, but maybe if you have a cottage that you want to go to and it has a dirt trail to get up to it, or maybe the roads just aren't as good in that area, you'll be able to do it no problem with the Sorento. So you've got some cool features there. We are starting to see that across the board from pretty much all the manufacturers now, especially in the mid-size consumer crossover segment. If you don't have extra drive modes, you're kind of being left in the dust. Now, performance on this, okay, it's not super quick. Power numbers are pretty good though for a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, but it's not meant to be sporty. I mean, if I gun it, oh yeah, there we go, we pick up speed no problem. And to be fair, I am in eco mode. I don't know about you, but I like to actually save money when I'm driving around. I don't want to have to spend too much on gas, so for the most part, it's been pretty good, but performance numbers have been good. The only thing I have noted is when I come to a stop, if I'm waiting for another car to go at, say, a stoplight, the engine will turn off, and the stop-start, timing on it is good. It doesn't turn off immediately. It waits a second or two, but I have found when I go to start, sometimes, not all the time, there is a huge delay. I'm talking like 2 full seconds from the time I take my foot off the brake before the engine will actually push the car forward. And you can hear the car start, and then there's still no power for a bit. Now, to be fair, it could be an issue with this press car. These vehicles do get beaten on really hard. I would say that even though this has 9,000 kilometers on it, you have to think of it as almost having like 50 or 60,000 kilometers on it, because these cars go through way more abuse than a normal consumer car would, just because some people don't take care of them. So I'm not 100% sure if that's an issue with this specific car or if it's something to be wary of. So I do plan on rebooking this in the winter. We will be testing it again then just to see, but as of right now, I'm having that issue. But aside from that, though, the drive has been good. The transmission has been nice and smooth. As I mentioned, this is using a wet dual clutch transmission. So overall, we'll have to see how it holds up over time. This is the first vehicle that we've tested from Kia that is using that system. So far, I mean, you can barely tell that the transmission is shifting, and it seems to be in the right gear. I'm obviously in eco mode, as I mentioned, so you're not necessarily getting a sport experience when you're in this mode. But for day-to-day driving, which is really what we emphasize here on Test Drive, it has been pretty good. I have no complaints about it. So transmission works pretty well, engine is good, and I know a lot of people might be curious, might be complaining, might be worried about that smaller engine. There's no V6 anymore. This is something that I have been personally talking about here on Test Drive for a very long time, and I'm talking like years now, that the industry is moving towards smaller engines. Everybody's doing it. Volvo, one of the luxury manufacturers, were sort of the first to start downsizing their engines, turbocharging and supercharging, and doing both in electrification, all built into the same engine. So this is proof that that is what's happening. There is no V6 available for this vehicle. And right now, as this is the only engine available at the top end trim, I can see some people maybe complaining about it, but there is supposed to be a hybrid coming, as well as a plug-in hybrid as well, which will be super popular. So there will be some more options if you need more power, if you need more towing numbers perhaps. We'll see how those do, but for the most part, in the daily driving use of this vehicle, it's not going to matter if it's a V6 or not. The power numbers are good. But how about the ride, drive, and everything else? As I mentioned outside, Kia says that they have improved that, including noise, vibration, and harshness. And I have to say, it's nice in here. It's hard to tell because I'm talking to you the whole time. But if I weren't, if you were just on a normal drive, you'd be impressed by how quiet it is in here. It's pretty close to the Telluride in terms of quietness. The ride is nice and smooth as well. You eat up the bumps in imperfections in the road. So far it's been very good, and the handling is good too. I mean, it's not sporty in the sense like the Mazda CX-9 is, but when you go around corners, you're not being thrown around. There's no issues with it. So this is a really refined vehicle, even in the first year of production for this. I'm very impressed with it. We liked the previous generation Sorento. There was really nothing wrong with it. I guess it suffered from its own success when the Telluride came out and Kia stripped away a few features in order to bring the price down a little bit so that there would be sort of a stepping stone into the Telluride. But the idea is now that this is just a little bit more, you have a few extra options. I can see people complaining about the fact that you are stuck with the captain's chairs in the second row. I know some people aren't super thrilled about those when it comes to the top end trim. People do like to have some flexibility, but at least here in Canada, this is the way that it comes. So it's ideal for a 4-person family like myself. We have 3. So having the captain's chairs works out well. You've got the 2 seats in the trunk if you need it. So I think for a lot of people, this will be a good choice. It might not be the choice for everybody. And then when it comes to the exterior and interior design, I mean, this thing just nails it. It is so nice. It's not offensive. It's not over the top, but it's the right mix of going with a modern style that will unfortunately make the old one look dated, but this will look good for time to come. And the thing is, I mean, we've liked so much now from these South Korean manufacturers that it's almost like they really got to stop being so good, because there's nothing bad that we can talk about. I guess, you know, the Sportage, we did that car at the beginning of the year, the 2021 model year, and I said, you know, it's been the same for a long time. 2022, they'll finally replace it. It's a need. And then they went ahead and did not do that. So I guess that's the sore spot in their lineup right now. But man, this thing is good. I can see myself having this as a daily driver, being very comfortable in it, as well as my family. There's tons of space in here for all of us, and you're going to be hard pressed to not like this. It just goes again to show you how committed these South Koreans are to making not only affordable vehicles, these are very affordable compared to other vehicles in the segment for what you get out of it, but they are also just top level. These are like AAA cars compared to what they were about 10 years ago. And I keep saying it, but I really feel it's needed, because I still see comments, whether it's on the Hyundais or Kias that we feature, people still have that stigma towards these brands and think that they aren't reliable or they're going to fall apart. But that just isn't the truth anymore. When you take a look at where these vehicles rank up in terms of reliability and in terms of overall scores and awards and things like that, these South Koreans are absolutely killing it. So maybe throw a bone to the rest of the manufacturers, and really the other manufacturers need to look at what these cars are doing, because you're getting the features that you want, it's got the price that you need, and the quality is there. That's something that's always been lacking from the South Koreans up until the last decade. So this thing just goes to show you that, once again, Kia is on top. There is very little to dislike about this. I've been enjoying my time with it. If you have any questions about this 2021 Kia Sorento SX, please leave a comment below. I do try to get back to everybody and reply to all the comments out there. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We have weekly content like this coming out all the time, every Monday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Check your local listings. Until next time, thanks for watching and take care.